But we do have Antigua and Barbuda's former High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, who served between 1982 and 1987 and 1996 to 2004, and presently serves as the ambassador to the United States and the Organization of American States, Sir Ron Sanders. Good morning, Sir Ron.
Good morning.
All right, thank you so much for being a part of our program. Just first question to you, and then I'll ask Clive to ask a question. On this historic day or epoch-making day in the United Kingdom. So, Ron, does this result surprise you?
Well, to be honest, yes, it does. I didn't think that the British people would have been foolish enough to have withdrawn themselves from the European Union. Of course, what we've seen here is a deeply divided vote because the percentages were roughly the same. So you've got a country that half of which says it wants to remain in the European Union, the other half that says it doesn't. It's unfortunate that the question of whether one should have remained in the European Union was not the central issue of this referendum. The people who wanted to leave the European Union introduced extraneous issues into the matter, particularly the matter of immigration, which, of course, became a very emotional issue, very sensational issue, and I think much of the reaction to it was to leaving the European Union was based on that anti-immigration vote. Not that leaving the European Union solved that immigration problem; they're still going to have to face it. But yes, I was surprised by it. I would have thought they had better sense. I think Britain is worse off for it. And I think we who have had a relationship with the European Union are going to find that we have to restructure that relationship. And incidentally, we now have to enter into a completely new relationship with Britain by itself.
All right. And what does that portend for the region?
Well, it's a lot of work to start with, and whether we, at the end of the day, are going to get the same level of benefits that we got from the European Union in the past from a restructured relationship is going to depend, A, on the sympathy of the European Union, the remaining European Union countries to the English-speaking Caribbean, and our capacity to negotiate together with them. Look, here's the situation. Britain joined the European Union in 1972 or 73. Once they'd done that, what existed previously was what was called Commonwealth preferences in terms of our relationship with Britain. So we had trade arrangements and all sorts of other arrangements with Britain that was based on Commonwealth preferences, with Britain at the center of that activity. Once Britain joined the European Union, it transferred all the authority for its trade and most of its aid and development assistance to the European Union, from which it was centrally directed. Now, since 1972, we've entered into three different kinds of arrangements with the European Union on trade, aid, and investment. First, we had the Lomé Convention, then we had the Cotonou Agreement, and now we are into an economic partnership arrangement with the European Union. And that partnership, our link country into the European Union was Britain. Britain was our entryway into the European Union, because the truth of the matter is that while we say we are trading with the European Union, most of the goods we exported from the Caribbean in the days when we were exporting sugar and bananas and rum and citrus in large quantities, the export market was Britain, not the European Union as a whole. But because Britain was part of the European Union, it was covered under that rubric. Now, here's the problem. We have a trade, investment, and aid agreement with the European Union, which includes Britain. With Britain out of it, the 27 remaining countries have no particular historical relationship with us in the English-speaking Caribbean. So we are going to have to make a very good case to them for why they should continue the same level of treatment that we've had in the past. That's one part of the problem. The other problem is we have no aid, trade, and investment relationship with Britain now at all, because that relationship had been subsumed under the European Union. Britain itself is now going to be looking for some kind of relationship, not only with us, but with other countries in the world. we are going to come low down in terms of who Britain wants to negotiate these trade agreements with. Of course, they're going to start looking at countries like China and India, South Africa, Nigeria, the big ones. We will come along at some point. But I doubt whether Britain will want an investment, an economic partnership arrangement with us. What Britain will want with us is a free trade area. And if we get into free trade with Britain, we will not be the beneficiaries. We can only do free trade if there are compensatory mechanisms, such as development assistance and aid. So we've got a tough battle ahead of us as a result of this decision by the British to leave the European Union.
All right. Clive, you have a question for Sir Ronald Sanders?
Yes, indeed. Good morning, Sir Ron. I'm also joined by Ken Richards, our news editor, as well.
Clive, can I just interrupt? I can't hear Clive very well. I'm sorry.
Oh, all right.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No, I can hear you, but it's muffled, so I might not not quite be able to hear your questions clearly. But let's try again.
All right, Clive, go ahead and ask the question, Clive, and I'll try my best to repeat it clearly.
All right. Essentially, the question is, what are the implications for the United Kingdom itself? Because Ireland voted to stay. I think Scotland voted to stay. Could there be implications in terms of the United Kingdom itself?
All right. So,
yeah,
Ron,
I think that's I heard Clive.
Okay.
And I think this is a very good question. In fact, it's a very real question and a very real problem for the United Kingdom. It's not only because units within the United Kingdom, such as Scotland, may now decide that they want a further referendum to leave the United Kingdom. You remember they lost one a couple of years ago, but barely, and they may very well wish to go back to that now because Scotland does not have an easy relationship with England, but it would prefer to be a part of the European Union. It had said so when the referendum was held a couple of years ago, and the First Minister of Scotland has already indicated publicly that she thinks a referendum is now on the table again for Scotland to withdraw from the United Kingdom because of its uneasy relationship with England. So that's a possibility. But the immediate problems for Britain are these. First of all, the value of the British pound has now dropped to the lowest it's been in 30 years. The last time we've had the pound below an equivalent of $1.40 US was 1970, and it's now at $1.32. Incidentally, that has implications for us in the Caribbean because our dollars are tied to the United States currency at a fixed rate. So that means holidays in places like Antigua and St. Kitts have just got automatically more expensive this morning than they were yesterday. And people who are now planning holidays are going to look at what's the most cost effective for them. So the cost of our tourism has gone up, not because of anything we've done, but because of the fall in the value of sterling, at least in the UK market. And it means our tourism people have to put strategies in place now for how we continue to get market share out of Britain. And I suspect what we'll have to be doing now is to start going for the high-end market in Britain rather than the low end, because people who can't afford it are not coming as far as the Caribbean. That's one point. Secondly, business is now in turmoil in Britain. People are not sure what investment decisions to make because they're not sure whose Britain's relations are going to be with in the future. In terms of trade, Britain has no trade arrangements with anybody. It just to the European Union, which handle those trade arrangements for it. It also, what is going to happen between Britain and Europe in terms of trade is also another question. This morning, the President of the European Union was saying that they don't want Britain to wait until October, when David Cameron is scheduled to resign, and the new Prime Minister to take his place, for Britain to leave. They want Britain to start that exit now. And interestingly, just yesterday, in a conversation with a European Union ambassador here at Washington, and this is an ambassador from a very large European country, he told me that Britain has always been a problem child in Europe, and they would be very glad to see the back of it. So there are all those permutations. The situation for Britain does not look good itself. This has been, in my view, a terrible mistake. But unfortunately, it's going to be the learning of it is going to bring a great deal of hardship.
All right. Saron, I know that you had indicated originally that your time with us this morning was limited. Can we be permitted another 3 to 4 minutes or so of your time?
Sure. I've got a bad sore throat, but yes, I've started this, so I might as well finish it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We appreciate that. Ken, over to you.
Yes. Hi. Good morning, Saron. Basically, based on what you said earlier, how does CARICOM respond to that situation of Britain leaving Europe? What is the best response the Caribbean under the umbrella of CARICOM can have? And the second question is in relation to the Commonwealth.
No, let me deal with the first. Can I deal with the first question first?
Okay.
And then we'll come back to that.
Okay, go ahead.
That first question is very important. Look, CARICOM should have been anticipating this possibility some time ago. It's not as if this referendum suddenly came upon us. It's been in the planning now for a year. And everybody knew there were two possibilities that could have come out of it. Either that Britain stayed in the European Union, in which case it was business as usual, nothing to worry about. However, if Britain came out of the European Union, then all of the things I just pointed out to you become real. That is, that we have a relationship with the European Union that was based on Britain being a part of it. And Britain was the key country for the English-speaking Caribbean in the European Union because while we trade with the European Union, the truth is most of our products went to Britain. So we should have been analyzing what we do about that. Also, what do we do about the investment and aid packages that were coming out of Europe, which included Britain and Britain's contribution to those things, and now will not. That's the first thing. And secondly, what should we have been doing about a relationship with Britain, which we do not have now at all once they leave the European Union? And I am hoping, I have no reason for saying this, except that I'm hoping that the CARICOM Secretariat had already begun to think about these possibilities and have some plan of action which they would suggest to CARICOM countries as the measures they should put in place. That is my hope.
All right, Ken, follow up.
Yes, the Commonwealth. Do you see an impact on the Commonwealth from that development?
No, because what impact could there be? Britain has left the European Union. The Commonwealth is made up of African, Caribbean, and Pacific states, all of which are members of the Commonwealth. But I don't see a practical role for the Commonwealth in this. The only thing that I can see the Commonwealth being able to do is if the Caribbean now needs to renegotiate its relationship with the European Union and also has to enter into a new relationship with Britain, the Commonwealth Secretariat may be able to provide us with technical assistance that we may require for those negotiations. But at the end of the day, it is going to be CARICOM countries and CARICOM country representatives that will have to handle those negotiations. The big question for me is, will the CARICOM countries join together to handle those negotiations collectively? In the past, when we negotiated the Lomé Agreement, when we negotiated the Cotonou Agreement and the Economic Partnership Arrangement with the European Union, we did so collectively. And it is very important that we continue to do so collectively. But in a sense, the situation has changed. We are no longer big exporters of sugar. We're no longer big exporters of bananas, which were the two critical commodity products we were sending there. So the issue now arises as to what will be the nature of our trade with the European Union on the one hand and with Britain on the other. In the case of Antigua and St. Kitts, and I can speak for both because St. Kitts is no longer in sugar, Antigua went out of sugar in the 1970s. Essentially, we've got two things, financial services and tourism. Those are the things we are concerned about. We also would like, of course, to have some cultural exports into both Britain and the European Union. There's less chance of it happening now with the European Union, and Britain has always restricted, in a sense, the cultural exports of the Caribbean. The music and that kind of thing. Our musicians have never been able, apart from a few Jamaicans of the quality of Bob Marley, to make an impact in that market, largely because of the restrictions they have put in place. But look, at the end of the day, this is the activity we've got to become involved in. It requires great research and intellectual rigor in deciding what the Caribbean negotiating position should be on all of this. And my hope is that we can, if we haven't started that work already, that we will begin that work today.